Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mentor Connect program at Synthesis Learning. So, today I have got a very special person on the other side, Mr. Dhaval Shah, who's a colleague and a dear friend. And he's going to be speaking on a very relevant topic for you, students and young professionals who are out there, out of colleges and universities, and wanting to seek your first jobs, or maybe in the first few years of your career. Now, I know that there are, these thousand questions of your mind when it comes to your first jobs or the first few jobs on hand. And I'm very happy, Dhaval, that you've taken some time out of your busy schedule and you're here today to share some very valuable insights with the young students and finance professionals in India today. So, thank you so much, firstly, for making it in this program. And allow me to quickly introduce yourself to all my viewers. So Mr. Dhaval is a seasoned professional for the last 18 plus years. He's worked in a lot of sectors and with some amazing organizations such as PwC, Honeywell, the Hutchison Group in India as well as globally. And presently, Dhaval is working with a very leading organization that's Incorp Advisory, and an MBA from the Indian School of Business. Dhaval is also an electronics engineer. To very quickly introduce Dhaval, the organization that you work with, that's Incorp. So Incorp is a Singapore-based management consulting firm and backed by one of the world's largest PE firms, that's TA Associates. So welcome, Dhaval, and we can't wait to get started to hear the valuable experiences and insights that you'll have for our dear students and professionals.
So thank you, Harsh, for the kind introduction. I appreciate it, and I'm delighted to be here. I was looking forward to having this conversation. So thank you for inviting.
Wonderful, thank you so much. So I'm just going to quickly get started because I can't wait to hear your insights and some of these areas that I've outlined today. So the first one being, common question, Dhaval, I get from students and professionals when I visit colleges or universities or even so many corporate, this whole new world that we talk about post-pandemic, and really the new world, the VUCA world as it's called, volatile and uncertain and complex and ambiguous, So what are these new age skills that companies want to hire today? Apart from the knowledge that these professional qualifications do, what are those new age skills they're looking for?
So, as you rightly said, knowledge is largely a commodity. Given that we live in a day in a world of information technology, even if you don't know a couple of things, it's very easy to find them in the vast, internet universe that we have. However, personally, I feel, and when I hire, the first thing I look for is digital literacy.
Okay.
I believe that all professionals, whether they are finance professionals, supply chain professionals, sales professionals, should be able to work in a tech-enabled world, should be able to use the tool sets that are provided by either the Google suite of products or the Microsoft suite of products, the cloud-based products that are available, to be able to be effective in whatever work they do. All organizations today have adopted something or the other as their primary collaboration and integration platform. So whether it is Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Outlook, whether it is Power BI, whether it is web-based tools, whether it is database query tools. These are things that are not taught in schools or professional education. And people typically learn them on the job. I myself learned all of these as I was working, as a young professional.
Okay.
But at that time, it was optional. Today, it is necessary.
Okay.
So the first thing that I believe is necessary is the ability to use advanced functions in Microsoft Excel, advanced capabilities in Microsoft tools, using cloud-based softwares for accounting, using cloud-based softwares for enterprise resource management, billing, all of that. So to be able to be comfortable with technology is definitely one thing that I would advise. Another skill set that I typically look for is the ability to collaborate virtually.
Okay.
Today in the post-pandemic world, a lot of things will happen virtually. Teams will be virtual, managers will be virtual, your co-collaborators will be virtual. So technology is one bit to enable it, but it also requires a lot of soft skills to build relationships in a virtual environment.
Indeed.
We are going to a point where even the sales and marketing is done virtually.
Absolutely.
So to be able to converse, to be able to communicate virtually, where the other person cannot see your body language as well as they would do in person. You don't have the comfort of meeting somebody in person, even in a informal setting.
Yeah.
So how do you build the confidence on the other side to be able to work together in a virtual environment? It's the second skill I believe is crucial in a post-pandemic world.
Very interesting. And if I may just add to that, I think one thing which I always keep telling everybody is a very high amount of agility. I think our ability to unlearn and relearn is so important. You may come out of your colleges and your qualifications learning something, but your ability to sort of sometimes blank that out and relearn is a very important skill that students need to have, and that's not something that's taught today in education institutions. It is something that you need to pick up at workplace.
No, I'll add a bit to it. So just a month ago, I had a bunch of 12 interns that came and worked for us.
Okay.
And the first 10 to 12 days we spent on unlearning whatever they had been taught at their institute, because the real world is very different from the academic world.
Absolutely.
So it creates a bridge for us to, if the person is adaptive, the person is very flexible.
Sure.
It makes the person much more effective, much faster in a new organization. So absolutely, that's a new skill that is necessary.
Wonderful. So I think digital literacy, ability to leverage on technology available, and something that one has to keep being curious, learn hands-on. Not everything comes through textbooks and curriculums. So that's a very, very big plus when you're entering the workspace. It's a point to take. I'll move on to my next question now. And again, this is, I think being an age-old question, relevant maybe even when I and you probably took our first jobs, and even today. There is always this difficult choice between going to this big brand. I got a job from Standard Chartered Bank. I got a job from McKinsey. I got a job from Ernst & Young. Those very, interesting labels. And on the other hand, you may have, maybe a friend offering a job in a startup, an idea that you really love, but then it's a name unknown. So, when you have to make a choice, especially in the first job or the first few jobs, is it the brand name that makes the CV, what it is, or is it really the business model and the experience, where the brand name may not exist?
So, this question can be answered in multiple ways, and I am sure a lot of people will have their own priorities. And what I'll do is I'll try to structure it in a way where I can elaborate on the options and the audience can take their own point of view on it. When we work for a big brand, when we work for a large company, you are essentially a small cog in a big machinery.
Right.
Your contribution to the organization is limited. You are very easily replaceable, especially when you're going in as a fresh graduate.
Mm-hmm.
And large organizations have their roles very clearly defined, and so which is why the exposure is limited to what the person is expected to do, plus the person or the roles that the person is expected to interact with. However, a brand also offers a very structured way of learning and development. It offers a very structured working environment where all the support functions are taken care of.
Sure.
And everything is in place. It's a mature machinery. When you work for a startup, it's a very different scenario. It's a very different proposition altogether. Startups don't have predefined roles. They always have more work and less people. Right. Which means whatever additional you can do, the organization will always appreciate you taking up additional responsibility and additional work. A startup gives you exposure to a much wider canvas of roles, a much wider canvas of abilities, and it also becomes an opportunity for people to discover what they like doing.
Very right.
So,
yes.
In my view, if you know exactly what you want to do, if you know that 20 years down the line I want to be partner at this firm, or 20 years down the line I want to be CFO of $1 billion organization, then a corporate job, a big brand is the way to go there.
Okay.
But if you're unsure whether I like to do tax, or whether I like to do audit, or whether I like to do investment banking, in that case, working for a startup where you get a flavor of different things would be more advisable for you to make a judgment at 2 years or 4 years down the line on what you want to do going forward.
Yeah. And I think it's also a brilliant realization of your strengths. You just stumble into things that you really like, and then you know that that's what you want to sort of get.
Correct.
So, interesting. So, Dhaval, when you decided to pick your first job, uh, what did you take? What was enticing? Was it the role? Was it the brand? Was it the manager? Was it the remuneration? Was it the learning experience? How did you prioritize?
So typically what happens is in institutes or in colleges, the impression that your seniors give you is what you carry when you go in the placement season. They tell you that, this is a good company, this is not a good company, this is a good profile, this is not a good profile, this job will pay well, the future is here. They're a very big influencer, knowing that where your seniors got placed and things like that. Personally, my philosophy is that the first 10 years of your career, you should spend only in places where you get maximum learning and exposure.
Okay.
That for me is the primary driver. The moment I believe that my learning in a particular role has stagnated, I either tell my manager about it to fix it, or I look for a different role.
Right.
The next 10 years of the career is primarily learning to manage stakeholders, whether it is customers, whether it is team members, whether it is your colleagues, whether it is your manager, your suppliers. Learning to manage people, learning to manage stakeholders is the next 10 years.
Okay.
And the next 10 years, which is 20 to 30 years of experience, is a point where you want to monetize everything you've learned. So that is when you pick up a job because you want to earn a lot of money.
Right.
Because you've learned everything. You have gathered the hard skills in the first 10 years, you gathered the soft skill in the next 10 years, and then you go out and monetize that skill set, is how I look at a career progression or a career path.
Sure.
So in my initial jobs, I personally would always vouch for good learning, good exposure into different types of things.
Sure. So as we always tell students, what is your first package? It's not the remuneration, it's the experience, right? That's what you have to look at. That's the package that you have to buy into. Interesting. Another trend, Dhaval, that I see, and I'm sure you and your organization sees, when you're seeing CVs these days, young professionals are so impulsive. They constantly, I think boredom sets in very easily. Perseverance is challenging. You're so impulsive, you want to quickly hop on from one opportunity to another. Just give me some thoughts on that. Is it the new way of working? Is it okay to work that way in the new world, or it's not healthy?
So we understand that the current generation of workforce or people that are entering the workforce are essentially working in an instant gratification environment. They have been used to getting what they want, when they want, where they want it.
Yeah, absolutely.
A simple example of this is the entire business done by a Swiggy, a Zomato, Ola, Uber, Big Basket, Dunzo, Flipkart, Netflix. Everyone is working on delivering value to the millennials now and here. This creates a sort of impatience with anything that is not now. So if I want to have a higher salary now, I want to have a good learning now, I want to take a vacation now, I want to go and travel the world now. And a lot of these priorities play a role when they go into a work life, and they find the slightest discomfort is when they start looking out. Now, personally, I have also had such an experience where there was a job that I was in and I really loved working there. And however, I was stuck with a manager who I was not comfortable with at all. And in a short period of time, I decided to quit the role. And to date, I regret doing that. Because in 2 months from after I left, the manager also left. If I had persevered for 2 more months, I would still, I would at that time be doing what I love doing.
Yeah.
So, perseverance is an understated skill.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
my personal viewpoint is that 2 years is the minimum time you should spend in any role or organization. That is sufficient time for the organization to find your strengths and to be able to support you in growing your professional profile. And that is sufficient time for you also to evaluate how the organization is adding to your professional development.
Yeah, absolutely. As they say, you need to see at least 3 or 4 seasons with the same organization to know. On a light note, I was, sitting over a coffee with a young student yesterday who's just finished, his degree, and he's hopping onto his first job. And I said that, what's your motivation to take up the first job? What is it that you're looking at? I said, I'm doing this interview tomorrow. Your insights are going to be valuable. And I'm short of words. He says, I'd like to take the first job that gives me enough money to travel for FIFA in December. That's my goal for 2022. I said, wow. I mean, I'm talking to a bunch of young students that, I can't relate to. But anyways, I think that's very interesting and valuable.
Right.
All right. Another, dilemma that students have. I think this is a dilemma that every commerce or finance student goes through when they are entering the corporate world. Should I go for a professional services organization like an EY, like a PwC, like a Grant Thornton, like an Incorp, right?
Right.
That's there's life of a particular type, there's a particular culture, there's a particular experience I get there. Or should I get into a hardcore industry role, like a finance manager in a Tata Motors, or or join a sector, so there's always this hard choice to make. What do you think is the right I'm sure there's no right or wrong answer, but
Right.
could you guide students on this choice that they always have to make?
Sure. So I had probably about 7-8 years ago, I had come across a framework. I think it was by McKinsey, which I find very interesting.
Mhm.
It defines your value as a professional in an organization from how far you are from the customer.
Okay.
So if, say, the customer is here, then people who interact with the customers regularly are people in sales, people in delivery and customer service.
Right, that's right.
One step behind would be people in marketing or people in credit and collections who would interact with customers but not as often.
Okay.
One step behind would be the manager or the leadership of the business. It would be people in finance, people in accounts who would raise invoices, who would take 2 steps to reach the customer. And then behind that would be the support functions like IT, HR, who are quite far away from the customer. Now, in a professional services organization, you are here. You are interacting with customers day in and day out. It creates, you are a revenue center for the business.
Correct.
The company looks at you, and what you are selling as a services business is the time and expertise of the professionals. So every hour you work is actually building the business,
Building the revenue
and the profitability.
Yeah.
In case of a corporate organization, you are at step 3, away from 3 steps away from the client as a finance professional. The finance professional is, or the finance as a function is typically seen as a cost center to the organization. So every hour you work is actually, money going out of the pocket of the organization rather than money flowing into the pocket of the organization. This was an aha moment for me. And while I liked being in customer-facing roles, it gave me a view that I would always want to be a part of a customer-facing role because I create value within the organization and the organization sees value in what work I do.
Okay.
On the other side, working in a corporate environment is also is also good, of course. It has its own benefits in terms of being able to drive change through an organization, to drive culture through an organization, to be able to build a function, to be able to build a team that grows along with the organization. So personally, my preference would always be working in a client-facing role. But there is always a preference of stability. There is always a preference of familiarity. For example, I know somebody who works in a certain corporate environment, or my ambition is to be a CFO one day. Or I know somebody who works as CFO and I really I idolize him and I want to become like him. Absolutely, those choices are always there.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And when you're drafting a resume, when you're writing your resume to apply to any of these jobs, I've often seen today that recruitment is very tech driven. Sometimes you don't even have a human face at stage one. It's the machine learning that's selecting a resume or throwing it out of the system, and then a human character comes in, right? And that machine could make mistakes, right? So what is it that you should keep in mind so that your resume is aligned to what that machine reads, what that artificial intelligence reads, so that you get a call to come for interviews? This is something a lot of students don't know. A lot of young students and professionals don't know that, there isn't that human person who sits and sees the resume at the first stage, especially in large organizations.
Correct.
So could you throw some light on that?
So if you see today, for any role that is given out, there are, and this is common data on LinkedIn, you will find that there are anywhere between 500 to 5,000 applicants for each role.
Mm-hmm.
It's not practically, physically possible for one person to go through 5,000.
Absolutely.
And which is where technology comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the ways to be able to, so what the technology does is it looks at the job profile, it identifies certain keywords like profit and loss statement, like tax or assurance or internal audit, and whatever the job requirements are. And then it looks for these keywords in your resume.
Okay.
Now, so if you use these words 4, 5, 6 times, then it is highly likely that you would be shortlisted for that role.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very important. I think most don't know this.
Absolutely. So, these things will backfire, because today, if you see, most people make one resume and use that resume to apply to 50, 60, 70 jobs over a month.
Yeah.
This approach does not work.
And
then you'll be surprised.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this you will be surprising. Why am I not getting any calls? It's exactly because of this, because your resume has to be modified each time you apply for a job to be using the keywords that are being used in the job description itself.
Yes, very, very insightful, very, very important point.
Right. I'd like to give 2 other tips for people who make their own resumes. One is, a resume cannot be more than 1 page long.
Okay.
1 A4 size paper.
Right.
I have seen resumes of CFOs and CEOs being 1 page long. I believe that all of us have, much lesser experience and much lesser credentials to showcase. And I'm sure it can fit in 1 page.
Yeah.
The second thing is, in your resume, never write your responsibilities.
Okay.
I was responsible for this, I was responsible for that. No. Write about what challenge you faced, what action you took, and what result you achieved.
Okay.
Each bullet point has to have 3 parts to it.
Okay.
This was the challenge, this was the action, and this was the result. And the result has to be a number. It cannot be, not the best outcome. A best outcome can be very different for different people.
Yeah. Interesting. So as they say, it has to be, as you rightly said, 1 page. It has to be like an elevator speech. Somebody reading your resume down the elevator must be able to finish when the time's there, right? So very rightfully said. And one last question of all the lovely insights you've given, one last point. Years back, they always said, I'll finish my education until I'm 20, 22, 23, and then my work career starts. Yeah. But in today's new world, education never ends, learning never ends, right? You have to keep unlearning, keep relearning, keep upgrading. And sometimes you need, formal programs that you can take up alongside your jobs to learn. Of course, you have a lot of hands-on experience that's happening while you're not on a job. So a few words on how important it is for you to never stop learning and never stop upgrading while you're working. Some final words on that.
Right. When you're working, there is a lot to learn in the environment around you as you are, observing people.
Yeah.
I told you about the experience of having a manager who I was not very comfortable with. Yeah. And even that gave me the learning of what not to do when I become a manager.
Absolutely.
So, learning at a workplace is multifaceted, and you just need to keep your eyes and ears open to be able to absorb from your workplace. When it comes to formal learning, it has to be very sharp topics. It cannot be a very generic topic. It has to be a sharp topic where you believe or your manager believes that you need to improve upon.
Sure.
So personally, I feel that a formal education or a formal upgrade in skill set in today's environment is required every 5 to 8 years. and it always brings a new point of view, a new thinking
New
into a
perspective.
professional,
Yeah.
into a
Yeah.
perspective.
Absolutely.
So while your learning at a job is perennial and continuous,
Yeah.
I believe that a major upgrade is due every 5 to 8 years.
Wonderful. So you really become a student every 5 to 8 years. You never stop becoming a student. That's,
Right.
I think, what the new world needs. So I think that was so insightful, so valuable. Thank you so much, Dhaval, for making it today. And I'm sure everybody watching it will go back home with a lot of insights and new perspective of how they should look at their first few jobs. Thank you once again, and I'll
Thank you.
look forward to speaking to you on some more topics very soon.
Thank you, Harsh, for this
Thank you.
opportunity, and my best wishes and good luck to all the students listening to this. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye bye.